Welcome back. You are watching the Global News Relay. We are a network of 17 universities in 10 countries around the world.
We're into hour 3 of a 6-hour show that's taken us from India to Japan to Bulgaria.
And the Global News Relay has been running for 5 years now and has covered a lot of different themes. This year, our theme is shelter and homelessness.
Now our next segment comes from Manchester, a city of just over 500,000 people in northwest England. Here's what the students from Salford University produced for the Global News Relay.
Welcome to Media City, the home of the stars and journalism here at the University of Salford. You are now watching Keys News. This is a special edition of Keys News for the Global News Relay. Whether you're watching in Canada, California, Nanjing or the Netherlands, welcome. We'll be taking you to Bulgaria to see how and why human trafficking still remains a problem in Europe.
Изключително принудителни мерки, нанасени ми са побои, държат се гладни.
Don't worry, stay calm, don't worry, don't worry.
We'll also look at why North Africa's migrants are attracted to Europe.
Il gommone prima o poi affonda, cioè il dubbio non è se affonda o non affonda, affonderà sicuro.
If the government catch me, I will go to prison.
But first, closer to home, we'll be talking about shelter. The Cornerstone charity in Manchester provides exactly that. In the centre today is Wolf Reeve to tell us more.
Yes, this centre offers food, drink and even clothing for those coming through the doors in need. And it wouldn't be possible without the 20 or so volunteers, such as Kevin, who joins me now.
Hello.
Kevin, you must see some pretty desperate people.
Yes, we do. As I said, everybody who comes in feels that they are desperate. Some use it as a convenience, but the majority feel they have problems. They want us to help them with their problems, which we do. For example, we have a computer room there. We can teach them how to use a computer, how to apply for jobs, how to get help about their benefits. All these things we're geared up to help. But we do not ask questions of anybody. We just help them, get them to move on as quickly as we can. We don't wait to get rid of them. For example, we have some houses. If they stay in the pods for a while, then they move on to one of our houses, and slowly the confidence gets built up, and then they're ready to move on into the world. So that's our thing, to get them from feeling rubbish to get them back with a confidence to go out and apply for work.
Thank you for your time, Kevin.
All right.
Now, I'm going to be staying here to see the work that people like Kevin do throughout the day and speak to some of those who are coming through the doors in desperate need of help.
That's how Manchester volunteers are helping. What about those whose dream is just to be here? Each year, thousands of migrants leave Asia or North Africa to flee persecution or just for a better life. Well, some go from nightmare to nightmare. Here with an in-depth look at the migration crisis and how Britain is reacting is Martina Moschiero.
Don't worry, stay calm, don't worry, don't worry.
Nearly every day, countless refugees are rescued. People fleeing conflict or misery, hoping to reach Europe. Firas comes from Eritrea, where teenagers are forced to join the Sawa military center. She wanted to remain anonymous to protect her identity.
When you go to Sawa, you can see your family like more than 3 years or 4 years, 5 years. And you don't have any democracy like for women or for men. If you die, they don't care. A lot.
Like Firas, millions of people face death on their way to Libya for the chance of boarding a dinghy or boat that will get them to islands like Lampedusa.
Un gommone prima o poi affonda, cioè il dubbio non è se affonda o non affonda, affonderà sicuro. Fra l'altro sul gommone si vanno a spargere liquidi, benzina, acqua che poi creano delle ustioni chimiche sulle persone che vengono a contatto per ore con questa miscela. Il barcone è suddiviso in vani, in piani, diciamo, no? Chi sta alla parte sotto del barcone rischia tantissimo, perché oltre al fatto che se il barcone dovesse affondare rimangono intrappolati dentro perché non hanno modo di uscire, quindi morirebbero tutti, ma poi all'interno del barcone ci sono spesso anche gas di scarico e quindi questo rappresenta anche un motivo di morte per asfissia o per avvelenamento da gas da CO2.
And many did die, 368 just in one famous landing in 2013. But when hope to find survivors was gone, these doctors never gave up.
Hanno portato 4 cadaveri, erano stati già messi nei sacchi per cadaveri e io però, come faccio sempre, ho preso il polso fra le mani di una ragazza. I primi 3 erano sicuramente cadaveri, la quarta, che non è una ragazza, mi sono reso conto che forse aveva un battito, poi ci ho fatto più attenzione, ne ho sentito ancora un altro, ho capito che ancora era viva e quindi c'è stata la corsa verso il poliambulatorio, laddove l'abbiamo rianimata e finalmente dopo circa un quarto d'ora il suo cuore ha cominciato a battere regolarmente e Kebrat, perché si chiama così questa ragazza, Kebrat, è ritornata a vita.
Migrants here in Lampedusa, they flee from a life of hardship, from countries that had nothing to offer them. But it's not just them. A big chunk of refugees and asylum seekers that come to Europe, they had perfectly fulfilling and rewarding lives that would have never wanted to live. More than 100,000 refugees fled to the UK from places like Syria. Mostly middle-class, educated people with university degrees and established careers. Razan used to study pharmacy, but when her house was bombed 5 years ago, she and her family moved to the UK.
Not easy at all. If the war wasn't in Syria, I would never leave it to go live different place. I had a stable life there. I had a successful life, working, active, but when the war is there, war cannot differentiate innocent from devil people.
Although challenging, building a new life is much easier for people like Razan, but those who arrive with nothing have a long way to go. In the UK, asylum seekers are expected to make an asylum claim as soon as they reach the country. This is followed by a screening interview to check their identity and the official asylum interview, where applicants should explain how they fear persecution in their own countries. If that fails, they can then make an appeal or make a fresh claim. The outcome of the interview should come out within 6 months, but many people end up waiting for more than 1 year. Molam escaped from the war in Syria in 2015, and 2 years on, is still waiting to be recognized as a refugee.
I can't sometimes study, I can't eat, I can't sleep. I think it's more than paper. I'm worried about my wife, because she's still in Syria. And the last call, she said, is still there is any hope to join you or to come to you? I said, who is no?
5 million people currently living in Britain were born somewhere else. Of these, 3.5 come from the EU. But unlike the public's perception, refugees are just over 100,000, making up for only 0.18% of the UK population.
Most uninformed people do not distinguish between different categories of foreigner. And they have a general hostility and suspicion and fear of foreigners.
Adi, which is not his real name, has been refused and is now waiting for the outcome of his appeal.
If the government catch me, I will go to prison. Or they'll kill me.
Why?
Because I helped a person, that person fighting with my government.
Was fighting against your government?
Yeah.
So they're looking for you in Iran?
Yeah, of course.
What was the response of the Home Office when you applied for asylum?
I think they do not believe my case.
It's very difficult to get the evidence to make your claim credible. If you come out of prison and then you get a doctor's certificate immediately, then maybe that's one thing, but that's not the kind of reality in these countries.
The English Defence League marching in Birmingham in response to the Westminster terror attack, a sign of the social tensions fueled by the high number of those crossing the border. Evidence suggests that in recent years, people's views on immigration have become harder. 3/4 of the British public would like numbers of migrants to be reduced. This also applies to refugees, who are among the least liked type of immigrants.
A migrant that's coming here to work, that's coming here to provide for themselves and create a better life, I have no problem with. It's the people that are using the system and claiming asylum, claiming refugee status without being in fear of these sort of issues. That's the problem.
We've got so many families awaiting housing, but yet the asylum seekers are prioritised.
Housing is allocated on a point system with very specific criteria that disregard people's nationalities. No one knows when the refugee crisis will finish, but until then, Europe remains the lifeline of millions of people that hope to be accepted and welcomed in their new home.
We've seen how a life in Europe remains a dream of many migrants, what goes wrong when this happens, and the struggles of those who are already here. Let's check in once more with Wolf Reeves, who's at Manchester's Cornerstone charity.
Yes, today over 150 people will come through the doors of Cornerstone Day Centre to receive food, drink and support. It's one of many places across the UK doing what they can to help the most vulnerable people in society. A charity just down the road, a couple of miles away, Emmaus, runs Lucy's Pantry. Now that combats not only homelessness, but food poverty as well. I went along to find out more about the work that they do.
It's heartbreaking. You've got women coming in with kids, do you know what I mean, and what's name, and like the kids want the treats, they see biscuits, they see chocolate and stuff, and it's like, can we have, and the mum's got to be firm with them and say, no, we need this, we need that.
For £2.50 a week, customers at Lucy's Pantry can take £15 worth of food. It's their weekly shop. 80 families are fed, with more on a waiting list.
So bear in mind, we're not a food bank. We're not here to work with people who are in an emergency situation, and that's what food banks are great at doing. They support people who are in emergency. It really is a shop. It's about a customer experience. You know, people pay £2.50, so therefore they're a customer and they can demand a good experience.
It's run by the charity Emmaus, not just tackling food poverty but homelessness as well. The charity supports 20 formerly homeless people, giving them a stable home, a job and support for as long as they need. You've been given the task of running the pantry. So
it's really good because like with Simon, he's brought the best out of me. Like what's his name? He had the faith in it for me to do this. So yeah, I'm so proud of myself, and like what's his name? Simon's given me the opportunity.
Without the companions, the people who live in our community that are known by that name, the residents. Without the residents working and providing the service, it wouldn't exist.
Emmaus started by turning around the lives of a few people. It's now gone on to become a vital part of the community for many more.
I've got customers and they're sanctioned for weeks. They've no pennies whatsoever. It's ridiculous. 21st century shouldn't be like this. Do you know what I mean? You just feel I can understand what my mum used to say about ration books. Do you know what I mean? But it's ridiculous. It shouldn't be like this in this day and age.
For all the problems here, the UK remains one of the most popular migrant destinations. Not everyone gets the new life they expect. Alexandra Todorova has travelled to her native Bulgaria, one of the Eastern European countries where people trafficking is a daily occurrence.
Always talked through Facebook, Skype. He cared for me and I liked him a lot. It wasn't long before I fell in love. He understood me more than anyone else. He kept inviting me to go to him. He said it's a very nice place and that the money is better and people are better, so I wanted to go there. So
you can have a better life there.
Yeah, I wanted a better life for myself and to raise my children in a better place.
Christina comes from a Roman Gypsy minority in Bulgaria, the third country of origin in Europe when it comes to human trafficking. In 2015, 383 victims have been detected, more than a person a day. Christina was only 16 when the trafficking process began.
Fundamentally, a child is targeted specifically because they're a child. And when you talk about power and when you talk about disproportionality, the more characteristics that you have that you could be discriminated against, the easier you are to control. So if you're a child, if you're a girl, if you're from a minority group that's not looked after in this country, you face even more and more penalties because of that, and you're more and more vulnerable to trafficking. Traffickers do take time, because it is an investment on their part, to build some sort of relationship, however coercive it is, so they feel like the young person can trust them. They're not usually in forms of bondage. They can leave, they can run away, they can get out. But because of those coercive psychological pressures that traffickers put on them, they can control them a lot easier.
Christina left the country as soon as she turned 18. As for most girls who fall victims of human trafficking, violence became her reality.
When I arrived, he was waiting for me at the airport with one of his friends. We drove to this building, a bar. They wanted to see my ticket, my documents, to see if everything was all right. Then they took them. Then I was told I was going to work as a prostitute, and that if I don't work, they know where my family lives, and they will go to them, beat them up and kill them.
Които са тръгнали с идеята, че ще работят било в обслужващата сфера, било като танцорки, било на някакъв тип сезонна работа. И когато отидат на място, предвид, че те не владеят повечето случаи езици, разделят се бързо с паспорта си в изолация, като спрямо тях има изключително принудителни мерки, нанасени ми се побои, държат се гладни, или доста унизително е отношението, което има спрямо тях.
Once in the circle, girls are trapped and have no one to turn to.
I used to work as a shop girl. They wanted me to talk very nicely with clients. If they felt that I was not giving my best, they would beat me up. When I spoke to him, he said that he didn't have any other option and that he was in debt to these people and that at least I wouldn't have to do it always. I wanted to help him, but the debt never finished, and later on I found out that he lives in a big house.
There's no escape. Your life slips away there. I found out later one of the girls have died. She was found dead on the road. The Swedish men wanted nothing to do with girls who have a pimp. They would ask you before you enter the car and drive away if you told them that you have one. They took my passport away. They took away all the money we made. We were only given cigarettes and alcohol to get us in a condition to work.
Abuse and mistreatment, the reality of those that have been wrenched from their families and put on the street.
I see them when they are catched as a prostitute on the street. I see their reaction. I see how they lie, how they must lie, how they must hide the pimp. And when we catch the pimp, you know, we catch the trafficker. She said, no, I don't know him. They are changed from the lie what they hear every day. You are my slave now. You are for the man. You must sleep with them. You must satisfy them. And when the police catch you, we don't know you. And you don't know us. If you know us, we kill you.
Sarah, which is not her real name, was forced to work as a prostitute at the age of 20.
I was lied to by my cousin. She lied to me that we were going to do farm work, that we were going to pick up fruits. How could I know? I left the country with them, and when we arrived, I was told that I was going to work as a prostitute. I was put in a room with all the pimps. The girls were all there as well. One of them was beaten up, covered in bruises. When I saw her, I fell into shock. One of the girls was hit on the head with a metal bar. There was blood all over her. I was there for 3 years. The conditions were always harsh. We were made to wear short skirts and provocative clothing outside, even in the winter. We were only given cigarettes and alcohol to get us in a condition to work. They might have been slipping drugs in the alcohol, as it made me feel very dizzy, uneasy and aggressive.
Deprived of their identity, girls like Sarah are left with no choice.
Passport control, they control their identification, they confiscate their passports and make sure that they actually have nowhere to go. So say for example, you want to run away, you have no passport, you don't speak the language, what do you think is going to happen to you? You're going to be petrified that you'll be deported. You'll be petrified that you can't pay the debt that you think you owe them and protect your family who might be targeted through that trafficking experience.
This is one of the many hidden safe houses in Bulgaria. Once found, victims are brought here where they can stay for 6 up to 12 months. 9 girls can share 2 rooms, but during the past year, most beds have been empty.
Самичка ли си тук? На това легло. Случва ли се да си с други момичета? Тя стаята е пригодена.
We had seven women. 2 are here now, and the other gone. It needs a tough lady to go directly out. Mostly he wants to see some relevance. This wish on the other side is also a dangerous wish. Before, when they was in the family or at the relevance together with them, the crime starts. The human trafficking starts. It's like this magnetic talks. So and they are together again, maybe with other names, with another man or with another background, but in the same way.
For some, there is still hope that one day their life could be the same.
The girl that helped me was a prostitute who worked with us. She took me to the police and they arranged for me to come back to Bulgaria. They caught my cousin, but she was freed during the court proceedings. I was then told she was dead. At the moment, I'm being paid 360 leva. I have 2 children, a boy and a girl. It gets me nowhere.
Is that why you wanted to leave in the first place?
Yes, I wanted to be able to support them. Now I want to study. I want to finish my education and start a better job.
We've seen how a life in Europe remains the dream of many migrants, how things can go wrong when this happens, and the struggle for the people already here. Let's check in once more with Will Freeth, who is at Manchester's Cornerstone charity.
Yeah, I'm now in the main hall of the Cornerstone Day Centre, and I'm joined by Mary, who's come in today. Mary, you've come in for a meal today. Now, how vital is the support here?
It's very good for me because I live on my own, and where I live, it's all students. I've no neighbours, and I'm 75. I've been coming here for about 15, 17 years because I can communicate with people. Where I live, it's all students moving in and out, and I spend my time here every day. If I didn't come here, I don't know what I'd do. I'd go crazy. It is a very good place. And when I was at a bad time, when I did come here, no one sent me. I seen people outside. And Angela's manageress said, "Does someone sent you?" I said, "No, I just come in because I've seen people." She said, "Come in and have a chat." And that's what I've done. I've been coming ever since. Well, I buried my 2 sons and my husband. And I was at a stage in depression. I was going in the park screaming, and I had no one to talk to because my daughter was going through the same thing, and my other son was going through. I couldn't talk to them, and it made the world of difference coming here. Yeah, and I've been coming here ever since, and I look forward to it. I'm up waiting to go. Been on good walks in new mills and different places. It's really good, and I don't know what I'd do if I didn't come here.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Mary. I'll leave you to go and enjoy your meal. Now, Mary's just one of hundreds of people that this day centre helps in one day alone. And people come here and they know that they have someone to talk to and they can come and enjoy a hot meal.
Thanks, Wolf. That's all for now for Keys News' special on the subject of shelter. Make sure you head over to our social media at Keys News and to our website keysnews.net. From all of us here as part of the University of Salford's Global News Relay team, thank you for watching.
Hello, you're watching the Global News Relay, coming to you right now from Ryerson University in Toronto, Canada. I'm Ksenia Shpak.
And I'm John Reardon. And we've been moving quite, I guess, at a snail's pace on our end, but I think what we're all really learning something here about technology and communications. But more importantly, it's very interesting to be seeing the all the different current affairs pieces coming in from around the world.
And we just watched a package from Salford University, and one of Salford's stories was about North African migrants attracted to Europe.
Yeah, absolutely. And in Canada, over the past few winters, we've had about 150 Haitian migrants every day crossing the border in the provinces of Quebec and Manitoba, of course, which can border with the United States. The borders are unguarded, and there are often just farmers' fields or forests between the United States and Canada.
And it has definitely created housing problems for the small towns on the Canadian side of the border. In Quebec, there are thousands were housed in the Montreal Olympic Stadium, where rows of cots were just set up. And Matt and Mitzi, what are the issues there in California with Mexicans crossing the border?
So, John and Ksenia, it's actually interesting because Fresno, a lot of Mexican people come to the United States and come into Fresno because there is a lot of migrant workers and there's really big on farming. So a lot of them actually do cross the border and they come here to look for jobs and or to find a better life, that kind of thing. So
Right. And here in Fresno State, actually, we have a very large population of Hispanic people. You know, they're first generation or second generation. Their parents came over and they're here now.
Right. And where do they live when they get to the U.S.?
It kind of just depends. I mean, for like what Mitzi was saying is we do have a large Hispanic population. Even here at Fresno State, half of our population of students here is actually Hispanic and Latino, so that's pretty interesting. And there's actually a program, it's called CAMP, which is a College Assistant Migrant Program. So it actually helps these students who are pursuing a career in farming or on the fields, and it helps them with housing to be able to afford to go to college and live in various things like that. So.
Of course, Matt. And Mitzi, I mean, this is a question that might be a little bit of a stupid question, but perhaps something not so obvious to our international viewers from around the world. Are we seeing the same thing but opposite? Are we seeing people from California migrating to Mexico for similar reasons?
Well, not that I've heard of or actually seen on the news. I feel it's more people from like Mexico or even like you have people from Guatemala coming over to live like a better life, you know, because we have the thing with the American dream where people think they can come over, get a job, raise enough money, you know, have a house, the white picket fence and everything. I'd say it's more people coming from Mexico than going from California to Mexico.
Right, and I know that in Toronto, we actually have a lot of Syrian refugees that are coming in, and there's about 20,000 just waiting in line to get processed and, you know, to get fully become residents in Toronto. And over this past year, we've had 50,000 Syrians come in. And of course, a lot of them are youth as well. And unfortunately, there's a lot of mental health issues surrounding the youth of Toronto, especially Syrian refugees. And I know that right now, actually, Toronto is trying to create shelters that have a mental health program in it. And our mayor, John Tory, he's saying that this will really help a lot of homeless youth get into shelters and, of course, help those refugees who are in need.
Absolutely. To turn the tables a little bit here, it's a very, these are all very important issues that are taken with different perspectives from different places around the world. We don't have a lot of time left, but that's pretty much that's where we can take that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, coming up next on the Global News Relay, crime is decreasing in the Netherlands. So the Dutch are coming up with innovative uses of empty prison. Our partners at NHTV in the Netherlands will tell us after this. And we're actually also going to be switching up hosts at Ryerson University. So thank you so much for sticking with us.
Imagine walking out of your university, working on media, working in journalism, and the first thing you see is the BBC and all these different broadcasting places. I mean, this is the perfect place to find the best talent that's up and coming, I reckon.
What I really like about this university is the facilities. What you see in the TV studio or the radio studio that I'm sitting in now is basically a miniature version of what you'd expect to see in industry.
We have very good links with industry, and obviously being here at Media City does help a great deal. We've got ITV next door and BBC just across the piazza there.
A journalist has to be much more, and that's what we're looking at all the time.
That ability to make a difference, to tell the real story, to uncover things for the benefit of public interest.
We give the students these kind of skills to go out into the industry and be able to report the news effectively and properly.
It's about building a CV and building contacts, as well as building your own skills and excellence.
They really do set you up for life in work, a world of work, life in industry.
The industry always has to nurture new talent, or always has to find new talent, and often you can find them in places like the University of Salford, where you're looking for the talent of the future.
Yeah, it's definitely good to come here and have the opportunity to meet sort of the top industry professionals and for them to sort of be aware of your achievements.
Although there's more information out there than ever, there is still a huge value for reliable information that has been verified, that is produced by people who have a real commitment to the public.